a boxing betting expert.
I know, David.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He really gets into the nitty-gritty of this whole thing.
Evening, Jay. Thanks for joining me.
Evening, man.
So, been following you guys. No Punches Pulled. Liam and Sam. Enjoy their stuff. Enjoy your stuff. And you've got your own podcast, Jay's Fight Talk.
Straight Talk.
Straight Talk.
With Liam, that's one of the co-hosts of No Punches Pulled. Myself and him do our own sort of spin-off weekly show. I think we're on our third one next week.
Oh, is that okay? Cool. And
yeah, it's brand new. It's brand new. To be fair, it sort of came. Sam's been on holiday, so we wanted to continue doing some content. We don't like doing the podcast without the three of us. The dynamic works.
Yeah.
So I said, look, we'll do something on my channel. And we had a couple of topics. We dropped lucky, really. We had the Dennis McCann, Tyson Fury announcing his retirement. So we had a few things to talk about. So we just put a weekly like magazine style show because I cover MMA as well, and Liam and Sam like MMA. So it's sort of a fight sports or such, whereas No Punches Pulled more boxing specific. So yeah, my YouTube channel's fairly new, but it's been well received. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, man. Yeah,
great. No, it seems like between you've got something at least twice a week, every week, either a preview or dropping news or
So we do watch-alongs as well for pretty much certainly every domestic fight. We do the UFC, Bellator, PFL. So you'll catch the three of us on at least twice a week.
Good stuff. Brilliant. Okay, so I know a bit of your background, and I think you're the second. Well, you say you remember your first fight at 7, so I want to get into that. We had one person on recently who said they remember their first fight at 4. So what was it at 7 that you remember?
Frank Bruno boxed an American called James Bone Crusher Smith.
Did, yeah.
And I was walking past the TV, and I think Frank Bruno was unbeaten at the time and was expected to run through this aging American. He was world level. Obviously, I didn't know any of this at the time. But the fact that it was on the national news, I caught highlights on the national news, and I was sort of intrigued by this. You know, this big bloke smashing this other bloke, and all the furore, and everybody was up in arms and total devastation. That just sparked an interest. I mean, I'd always been sort of a rough and tumble type of kid anyway. So, you know, I'd sit and watch two tramps fight over a bag of chips. I've always been intrigued by fighting. So, yeah, 7 was sort of, my interest was sparked. And then I asked if I could watch boxing thereafter. I'm old enough to remember when boxing was on Saturday nights on either ITV or BBC, so you could always catch it on terrestrial TV.
Yeah,
I sort of grew up in the Ben Eubank, McGuigan led the sort of the charge in terms of big terrestrial. Then obviously Frank Bruno, who sparked off the interest, and it just spiraled from there. And then my younger brother, who's 5 and so years younger than me, took up boxing at 8. So I'll have been like 12, 13. We used to push the sofas apart, orange quarter in our mouths and socks on our hands and fight anyway. We'd always box for the WBC middleweight championship of the living room.
Brilliant.
And we'd always sit down and watch boxing anyway, Saturday nights. My brother started boxing at 8. Took to it, was really good. My brother came up with Paul Smith, Macklin. So I know Macklin, Paul Smith, Martin Murray. He came up in that squad.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure they were the first group of elite amateurs that started to get funding through the National Lottery. Before it was Team GB, as it is now. They didn't have the Institute of Sport, and none of that was. They used to go to Sheffield for camps, but it wasn't like it is now.
Okay.
So I've been involved in it amateur as well as being sort of a fan. I wanted to try it. The difference between me and my brother is I was at an age where I was interested in girls and ego, and so I liked everybody knowing I boxed, but I wasn't dedicated to the training. You know, I was smoking and not doing my runs, and so I have a record of 0-1. I took a short notice fight, wasn't ready, and got stopped inside 2 rounds, and I knew right then and there that it wasn't for me. I wasn't committed enough. I can spar, I can box, I can take a punch. I've got a decent dig myself. Wasn't committed to the training. I just couldn't do it. So I knew right then and there that boxing wasn't for me. My brother, on the other hand, you know, won national titles.
Right.
To a senior ABA final, won a junior ABAs, internationals.
Wow.
And boxed as a pro, boxed for the
Right.
British. Challenged for the British, won the English super featherweight title. So, you know, boxed at a decent level. So I've been, as I say, in and around boxing in some capacity for 40 years.
So you must have given him some good foundations behind the sofa then.
Yes. I take the credit for him having a strong chin.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's also nice to hear Big Frank mentioned. Like, most people sort of talk about Ali and Tyson and these guys getting into sport, but you know, Frank Bruno.
Listen, a lot of this generation don't realise that Frank Bruno was Anthony Joshua before Anthony Joshua was a thing.
Yeah.
Frank Bruno boxed, the country stopped.
Yeah.
The country stopped. Frank Bruno was a big deal. And I'm talking the days before Sky and 1,000 channels and internet and streaming. I remember Bruno up against Oliver McCall when he won his world title. I remember being with my mates at my mate's house watching it, and we were crying. We were teenage boys. Everybody was that happy that Frank Bruno had won the belt because Frank was he was an approachable guy. He felt like a normal guy. He wasn't removed. There was no boundaries, no barriers. He felt approachable. In fact, still to this day, right? Random. This is so random. So do you remember when he did Panto? Yeah. Right. He did Bradford. I'm from Bradford, and he did Bradford Panto. We came home one night, and there was I'm assuming my brother still got it, but there was a signed photograph from Bruno to my brother, and it's with his WBC belt. We still to this day do not know where that came from. Wow. My son has since met Frank and got signed stuff, and we've checked it. So it's a definite legit, but no one ever said, oh, we posted it through or we got this signed. It was just through the door. I don't believe Frank did it. I don't believe he knew where we lived, but Frank sparked my interest, and you know, I'll give him credit for that till the day I die.
Well, you say he was AJ before AJ existed, and I think that's a really good point. And also the difference was, like, now it's so easy to people have haters. It's easy to hate Anthony. Like, for every person who loves him, there's two people who hate him. Everyone loved Frank. There was nobody hated Frank Bruno. That was the difference. Like, there was tens of millions watching for free on TV, and everyone supported him.
Our Frank, that's what people called him. Our Frank. You know, it was a national treasure. And you know, the younger generation don't know. They don't know. He paved the way, not just for. I'm not going to say just for black people in sport, but he did a lot for black people in the sport because he was accepted. You've got to remember, Frank and myself, I'm from a generation where, I hate saying this, but I remember signs, you know, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. I still remember those signs. And, you know, and I'm mixed race, but I'm light skinned. So some people think I'm white, others don't. But I've had racism myself, and Frank's from an era where black people were seen in some guys as, you know, second-rate citizens. So he did a lot to bring people together. People didn't see colour when Frank boxed. He was our Frank, irrespective of what colour he was. So he's very underappreciated, I think, in not just British boxing, but world boxing as a whole. I think Frank is very, very undervalued and underappreciated for me.
He's a fascinating one because it's very hard to know how good he was because there were so many sort of obvious limitations with him, but like I'd love to know how he'd get on now. And like,
what's the Lennox Lewis fight for me?
Yeah.
I mean, he beat Lennox Lewis and just got caught.
Yeah.
But up to that point, he was dealing with Lennox Lewis, and Lennox Lewis goes down as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. He's in my top 10. Let's put it that way. You know, it could be in my top 5. And Frank Bruno, I think he goes toe-to-toe with any of them. I think somebody like Tyson Fury or Usyk, who can box, who have fast hands and fast feet, would give him trouble. But you've got to remember, Mike Tyson still says to this day that Frank was one of the hardest punchers he'd ever. He nearly stopped Tyson. If he'd had boxed different tactics, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I think Frank would have easily mixed it with all of them that we talk about in this generation. For me, definitely.
Love it. Great to hear that. Yeah. Okay, so like since that those early days in the sort of early 90s, late 80s, who's been your favourite since then?
What are we talking modern day or just in general?
Yeah, since you followed the sport.
So since I followed the sport, I mean, I've got some pretty random. So I'm sort of I'll sit and watch all black and white fights, and Salvador Sanchez is probably one of my all-time favourite fighters. You've got to be a proper boxing nut to have even heard of him. Edwin Valero, I'd have loved to have seen him come through, but obviously he had a tragic end to his fight. But I think he was destined to fight the likes of Pacquiao and Mayweather.
Yeah.
The usual suspects, really. I can't get away from Nigel Benn.
Yeah.
He was my favourite. I remember stood at the bus station in the morning waiting to go to school, and people who didn't even like boxing, they said, "Oh, have you seen who Nigel Benn's fighting at the weekend? He's fighting this guy with a monocle."
Oh, yeah.
I remember the hunger and the excitement around, because it was no one had ever seen or heard of anybody like Chris Eubank. Nigel Benn was this stone cold killer, and then we had this guy in joppers and a monocle playing this character, and it were so my all-time favorite boxer, if I had to pick one as my all-time favorite, I'd probably say Evander Holyfield.
Oh yeah, nice.
Because I followed him as a cruiserweight, and then obviously what he did at heavyweight. But I mean, there's so many. Marvin Hagler.
So talk to me more about what you like about Holyfield, because I think he's criminally underrated.
Yeah, I think me too. Just for the fact that he dominated in one division. He did what he was Usyk before Usyk, and people never go back to that. Yeah. People will pull out him getting stopped by what's the MMA fighter that he fought in the triangle? He boxed. I forget his name.
A few years ago, like
a couple of years ago, yeah.
He's
a 58-year-old.
Yeah.
He was Usyk before Usyk. I mean, he dominated. I mean, he medaled at the Olympics, dominated at cruiserweight.
Yeah.
Pretty much dominated at heavyweight up until he met Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
And you know, Lennox Lewis again is a generational talent.
Yeah.
I just loved everything about him. He was understated, wasn't a brash trash talker, was openly a Christian. Wasn't afraid to thank God before thanking God became cool, as it is now. Just a quiet, understated guy that just went about his business, and I like that. Even though, you know, I like the Prince Naseems, for example. I love the brash talking, picking you round, picking the method, but I also like the humble guys that just go through it, but put body after body after body, you know.
I think the other similarity between Usyk and Holyfield is, among all the fighters that there have been at that level, I've never seen two like them who just look completely confident. Like if Holyfield is a massive underdog, he still walks into that ring looking like he's going to win.
Listen, watch Holyfield Tyson. Right?
Oh yeah.
Just watch Holyfield look through Tyson.
Yeah.
Not scared. Yeah. Doesn't matter what's going on inside. He's stoic. He's just staring through Tyson. You're not beating me. Doesn't matter what's at the other side of that ring. You're not beating me. Exactly. And I knew the second they faced off, it was over for Tyson for me.
Both those fights.
We know what happened in the subsequent fight. So yeah, understated, but just went about his business like a consummate professional. Never any shit talk. Never anything outside of the ring that followed him around. Similar to Usyk, you know, he's just a family man. Consummate professional, and you know.
Do you have a theory as to why he doesn't get talked about? Like, I mean, they all talk about his use of the head. Do you think there's anything? Is it because he destroyed the myth of Tyson? Or do you think there's a reason that he doesn't get?
That went against him. Yeah, I think destroying the myth of Tyson definitely went against him, because, you know, a lot of people have Tyson up there as one of the greatest of all time. I don't. I think Tyson's. I hate saying this because I always get a lot of grief for it, but I think he's badly overrated. Tyson, for me, 5 or 6 elite fighters that he boxed, he lost them all. He was great, flat track bully, but as soon as he met someone that could fight him back, he lost. And And I think because he dispelled that myth, some within the trade held it against him.
Yeah.
And I think, again, because he was understated, he didn't trash talk and he didn't fall out of clubs and he never knocked anybody out outside of the ring.
Yeah.
He wasn't sexy enough a name for some people, I think. And I think that's potentially put paid to him being more of a lauded star on a pedestal than he is.
Yeah, he's not very marketable. And Usyk isn't really, like, Usyk's just popular because he's so likable, but he's not exactly a marketer's dream, is he?
And I think the fact that he's fought AJ and Tyson Fury have helped his profile, because he's had somebody else at the opposite end of, because when he was fighting the likes of the Breedis and Gassiev and them kind of people, their profiles are not that big outside their own country. Yeah. And I think because he's had a dance partner that's got massive profile as well, I think that's helped Usyk's profile be boosted. Yeah. I think if he didn't have those fights, we wouldn't be talking about. We would, because we're boxing fans as such, but the casual, the crossover fan, I don't think he would be as have as much notoriety as he's got.
So, do you get to many fights live?
I've stopped going. I've been hundreds. I don't go anymore. My son's 20 odd now. He's a father. He's got his kids. We used to do it. It was our thing. We did it together. So no, not really now. I don't. It's the crowd's different. I'm not into the tight t-shirt, shiny teeth, fringe from Turkey. More interested. The girls are all stood talking. They're all in and out of the bathroom. I want to sit and watch it. So I'm one of those guys that will sit and watch it on my own in the dark with the sound off like a psychopath. Or I'm doing a watch along with the lads. I want to watch it. I don't want people falling over me and spilling drinks on me or shouting, "Knock him out!"
Yeah.
So I don't go anymore. As soon as Crawler retired.
Yeah.
No, I tell a lie. Troy Williamson is his family. So I get to his fights if I can. Yeah. But other than that, I don't really go to many cards now.
So what would be a highlight as the best fight you've seen live?
Best fight I've seen live? There's a couple. My brother boxed Stephen Bell. I don't know if you've heard of Stephen Bell from Manchester. They boxed on Amir Khan versus Scott Lawton at the Nottingham Ice Arena. I think it was 2007, I want to say. Funnily enough, I was sat in between Frank Bruno and Ricky Hatton.
Oh, wow.
Frank earlier on. I've never heard a crowd like it before, during, and after. Amir Khan and Scott Lawton's fans and Nottingham Ice Arena, as it was like a coliseum. It was like a ball, and the noise. Anyway, my brother was on the undercard. I think if I go back, if I remember rightly, I think Tony Bellew debuted on the card.
Wow.
I think Crawler fought on it. You go back and look at the card. There's some crazy names on it. Anyway, my brother boxed for the English super featherweight title, and he got put on his back in the first, and I mean knocked down heavy in the first round. Managed to get up at 8, composed himself, got through the round, and then proceeded to box and win the next 9.
Wow.
So for me, obviously, I was personally invested in that. But outside of that, Jamie McDonnell versus Stuart Hall 2 at the Doncaster Dome for the British Commonwealth titles.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was televised. It might have been, but wow, that was,
And you got your hands on the belts then, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Well, I was backstage. So my brother was in the same sort of promotional stable, Dennis Hobson.
Okay.
So I was in the changing rooms with him, Kel Brook. I got my hands on the belts. That was before Gavin. Gavin McDonnell didn't even box then. I think that was 2011, 12. And Crawler and John Murray, I think, is another one. That I sat, because I know both of them, and that was Crawler's coming out party. I thought John was going to beat him, to be honest, and Crawler just dealt with him. But it was the atmosphere. It was in Manchester. It was,
So with your brother fighting, are you allowed to? Do you have a bet on him? Do you get odds on those fights?
No. I wouldn't contemplate doing it because I'm superstitious, so I'd think that'd bring bad luck on him. And I'd be allowed to bet on him. There's no reason why I can't. I think it's you're not allowed to bet on yourself.
Yeah, sure.
But no, I'd be allowed. But I haven't. No, I haven't.
But seeing him knocked down heavily, and he comes back, gets on his feet. I mean, and that's your brother doing that. It's exciting enough when it's someone you don't know. So I understand that. What about on TV then? What's the most standout fight you've seen since you've been
On
following?
TV,
Yeah, a lot on TV, pay-per-view, whatever.
it's got. I mean, again, I don't want to upset anybody when I say this, but Nigel Benn, Gerald McClellan.
Yeah.
I know it's a crappy ending.
Yeah.
But that fight, man.
Yeah.
You know, they brought this killer over here to ruin Ben.
Yeah.
Ben gets knocked through the ropes in the first round.
Yeah.
Everyone's heart's in the mouth. You know, I'm nearly crying. My hero's going to get whooped. And then, you know, take the terrible ending out. That fight was absolutely end to end.
Yeah.
Joe Calzaghe, Jeff Lacey, another one. Killer brought over. Calzaghe just went through the motions and just dissected him piece by piece by piece. But mate, I watch fights from morning till night. I could pick 1,000 fights, but those two are standouts: McClellan Ben and Jeff Lacey and Joe Calzaghe.
And so those are both super middleweight fights. Is that your favorite division?
I wouldn't say I've got a favorite division. It's just that my generation. So I'm 47. So when Ben and Eubank were coming up, it was middleweight, super middleweight. They were the main, you know, because you had James Toney, Roy Jones, Mike McCallum, Michael Nunn, Errol Bomber Graham, Nigel Benn. Do you know what I'm saying? They were all around. So those divisions, whether they were favourites or not, were the most. They were the busiest of divisions. So I think it's just gone hand in glove that, you know, some of my favourite fights happen to be those divisions. No, I wouldn't say I've got a favourite division.
And the super middles for UK fight fans from that era. As soon as the Ben Eubank was over, then we had Steve Collins, then we had Calzaghe, then we had Carl Froch. There was just always someone.
Always gone to Gale Groves.
Exactly.
Recently, I think we were talking last week. It's bare bones at the minute. Is 168. There's not much going on.
Yeah, weird. So you mentioned that you wanted to be a referee. Can you talk to me about that?
I did, but unfortunately, I made some terrible life choices and spent a lot of my 20s in Her Majesty's Hotel.
Oh, okay.
So unfortunately, I couldn't then. I could now because I've now got a clean bill of health, so to speak, in terms of criminal convictions. All my convictions are spent now, but unfortunately, I have looked. It would take. I'd be 60 before I'd be a referee.
You're serious?
Yeah, it's so long.
Wow.
It's so long. Because they've not updated the processes. You know, it needs an overhaul. I've also I'd looked at being a cutsman.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be involved in the sport in some capacity. Yeah. So now I create content instead. Yeah. And
Great.
I feel like I'm involved in it in a small way.
So you mentioned you judge all the fights going back to when you were a kid as well. Have you seen any sort of standout decisions that you wholeheartedly disagree with? Everyone shouts robbery every weekend, but are there any ones that you truly stand out and think the decision was wrong?
I'm trying to think. One that sticks out that I'd say was wrong. Well, I think Ben beat Eubank in the second one.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a draw. I think Nigel Benn, won that fight.
Yeah. I think Eubanks said that as well recently as well.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Ah, right.
Well, how did you score Beterbiev Bivol?
I think I'd have to look back. Bivol for me. I had Bivol winning that fight.
Same, yeah.
I think he did. I just think he were busier. I think I had him by. No, I'm going to be honest now, right? On the live watch along, right? Oh, I forgot my mic, but I keep my notes. I do electronic, but I write them down as well. I've got my original scorecard. When I watched it live, obviously emotion, I'm talking to Sam and Liam, and we're sort of missing bits. I had Bivol wide. I had him like by 4, 5, 6 points. I had it madness.
Yeah.
But when I've watched it back, I think I had it something like 115, 113.
Yeah.
But definitely Bivol, I did not give Beterbiev that fight. Bivol won that fight for me. So that decision was wrong. Not a robbery, though. It was a coin toss, and it's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, agree. Okay, So do you have any sort of standout hot takes where you've predicted a fight against the odds, or you just sort of were totally confident that one guy's style was going to...
I've got a few.
Oh, yeah.
I'll send you I'll inbox you a picture. So when Ruiz beat Joshua, this is, I hate admitting this, but I did a treble, right? Listen to this for pure luck. My little girl, she's got something like an 80% conversion rate, right? Gamble responsibly, people, by the way. And I'll just go, AJ, Joshua Ruiz, and she'll go, Joshua round 7 or whatever. So I asked her and she said, Ruiz 7. So I wrote it down. I said, Katie Taylor, I forget who she was fighting. She said, Taylor points. I said, Josh Kelly, Ray Robinson. She said, draw. So I put a treble on, right? But I set a limit on my betting app, and it was Liverpool. I'm a Liverpool fan, all my family is. Liverpool Spurs Champions League final. Dad, can we put a bet on? Dad, can we put a bet on? I were up to my limit. So I cashed out the treble, halved it, let him put a bet on the football, and then put 3 singles on the boxing. Whoa. I still got I got 150 to 1 on Ruiz. I think I got 6 to 4 on Katie Taylor on points and something like 25 to 1 on the draw. But if I'd have kept the treble, it would have been mad. So yeah, I picked Ruiz round 7, but that was by pure luck.
That was 150 to 1, was it? The round betting
on the round, yeah, because Ruiz was a massive outsider, if you remember, in the first one. So I got 100, but if I'd have got 150 to 1 at 6 to 4 times 25, so I'd have won.
Oh man.
Right, so that was blind luck. So here's one that I actually picked, and I'll send you the picture. I've got a picture of the bookie counting the cash out with a sad face.
Yeah.
So when Fury boxed Wilder the first time,
yeah,
I went into bookies. I said, "Can I have 100 quid on the draw?" And he went, "What? Tyson Fury's going to get a draw. He's going to get knocked out." I said, "All right, well, I'll see you tomorrow then." I said, "Don't say I didn't warn you." I won like 2.5 grand or whatever it was.
Amazing.
And I made him count it out as well, just rubbing it in. And then another one where
I'd love to see that. Send that to me.
I'll send you the picture. Yeah. Remind me before we finish. And then here's another mess up by Jay's Fight Talk. It was Tony Bellew versus, now I might be wrong, I think it was Isaac Chilemba.
Yeah.
Right? He was the main event, and Anthony Crolla boxed somebody as the co-main event, right? And I went into a bookies then. It wasn't a betting app, and I put both fights as draws. But as I'm walking out, I noticed she'd put a double. And the chances of a double draw in 2 consecutive fights is mega odds. And I went, whoa. Can you separate those, please? And she went, yeah, no problem. Separated them. I went home, fell asleep, missed the fights. And my missus, next thing, she's shaking me going, your bet's coming. I'm like, what? Oh, brilliant. Oh, no. And realised I'd separated it. I still got like 25 to 1 and 25. But I would have got 25 to 1 times 25. They both drew. Oh, I was sick. I was absolutely sick.
That's unreal.
They're ones where I've just... No, and I did it with Joshua when Joshua, if you look at our No Punches Pulled for Joshua Dubois, I said from day one, Dubois will run through Joshua. Yeah. Sam shot me down. Everyone on social media shot me down. I was getting called a hater because I do have a personal issue with Anthony Joe. I have an issue with him. He doesn't know me from a hole in the wall, but I just don't like him. I've had a couple of interactions with him, felt disrespected. So for me, I'm always backing against him, which is childish. But
so is your betting, is it a sort of quite a serious thing for you? Is it purely a bit of fun?
No. Yeah. Oh no. I know I'm talking like I'm this big gambler. I have limits. I bet responsibly. I only bet, as cliche as it sounds, what I can afford to lose.
Sure.
And to be honest, I can go a year just using winnings. So I'll have a bet. Yeah. I'll save the winnings, bet again, and I try to do it like that. I don't spend a lot of money because I've got.
You don't look for an angle. You don't look for an angle in every fight. It's just now and then you fancy something. Okay, great.
No, if it's a big fight, I'll have a look. And I like my draws. I've won a lot of money on draws because Crolla's had 3 or 4. So no, I'm not. I'm not a massive gambler. I know that sounds silly, but you know, I try to bet responsibly, and then I might just get a hunch or a feeling, but yeah, I actually bet Joshua to get stopped in round 1, which nearly, to be fair, it could have been stopped because he got helped back to the corner, but I just knew that Dubois would run through him, and I was right. I was found to be right.
Yeah, we had him as well at 41. So my biggest bet at the time was also a cash bet in the Ladbrokes on the Lewis Holyfield draw in 1999, and that was back when it was 40-1 the draw. Yeah. And when I went back the next day to collect my winnings, I said to the guy, that was a young kid, I said to the guy, how many people backed the draw? And it's the Ladbrokes in the High Street, Central London. He said, no one. You're the only person who backed the draw.
Wow.
But now the draw, now you get like 15 to 1. Yeah.
16. It used to be 20, 22, 25s. They've stopped that now.
Holyfield Lewis was 40-1.
Yeah, I used to get 20, 25s. Yeah. But now you're lucky if you get 16s, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Eubank Ben in a couple of months, it's like 15-1 the draw. So away from the betting, who do you think is the most overrated boxer you've seen since you followed the sport, and also the most underrated?
The most overrated boxer. I don't want to disrespect anybody. I've just sent you that picture, by the way.
Okay.
Of the book counting my pennies. The most overrated boxer. Not sure, you know. Not sure. Okay. It's hard to say, man, without being an ass about it.
Okay, so underrated. How about underrated?
Frank Bruno. Nice. I don't think he gets. He just doesn't get the props for. He's paved the way for a lot of fighters. Yeah, Frank Bruno. I think he's criminally underrated for me.
Okay, so I was interested to hear you say you thought Lennox, I think earlier, was like around the top 10. Like, so who do you have number 1 heavyweight of all time? Where would you have Lennox?
Muhammad Ali.
Where would you have Lennox, and where would you have Mike Tyson?
Tyson possibly won't get in it because I've got the likes of Jack Dempsey, Jack Johnson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Usyk. I'm going to get shot down here. I'd potentially put Tyson Fury in it before Mike Tyson. Yeah, as I say, Tyson for what were his records? 60-6 or 50-6 or something like that. Yeah. But if you look at his wins on the come up, Michael Spinks is probably the best person he beat. And Michael Spinks were possibly untested when he knocked him out. Anytime he came up against anybody that wasn't scared of him, he lost. As soon as you could put it on Tyson, he lost. If he couldn't knock you out, he lost. Razor Ruddock nearly beat him, giving him murders. Jose Ribalta had him in fits and farts for a couple of rounds.
James Tillis.
People forget that. Wasn't necessarily that good a boxer. He was a fast movement, body head. It was always unseen shots that knocked people out. If you could stay out of range and just make him have to come to you, you could just pick him off. I'm saying that like I could do it, not me, but
he's managed to get this reputation of being this dynamic puncher. Now, if you look at the first 50 fights of his career before he was like completely shot, the first 50, that's his entire body of work. If you split it into two halves, the 25 fights, and the first 25 fights when he's coming through, he's fighting every month. He knocked out 94% of those guys. The first 25, the second 25, he knocked out like 56%, barely, just over half. So as soon as he stepped up, that sort of reputation as the huge puncher wasn't there.
It dwindles, doesn't it? People forget that though. People always do it with history. They sort of rewrite it. And, I've done it myself. I might say something to a family member from way back, and they'll go, "It didn't happen like that."
Yeah.
But it's how you remember. You remember stuff, and you sort of edit it, don't you, in your own mind? And I think Tyson's got this reputation. You see the pictures, the line in his hair, the WBC belt. This killer knocking people dead. which he was, as you say, for the first half of his career. Second half, as he started to go through the levels and people could navigate their way around the ring, I wouldn't say he struggled, but it was harder work for him.
Yeah.
So for me, Tyson, maybe for what he did winning the title as a young man, but he beat Trevor Burbeck. Trevor Burbeck, God rest his soul. Trevor Burbeck didn't do much before, during, or after that, really. Ended up fighting into his 50s in car parks in Jamaica, and his life ended in tragedy.
Yeah.
So for me, looking at it realistically as somebody who prides themselves on knowing the sport, or likes to think that I know the sport, I think Tyson is there's your criminally overrated.
But having said that, you must have during the 80s and 90s, you must have loved watching his career.
So we had a dodgy, we used to call them film net boxes. It was a dodgy skybox, so you could get Fruity TV and American sports, because not many people had satellite TV, so you didn't get the American fights. And I remember staying up to 3 a.m. to watch him. I remember the Buster Douglas shock horror.
Did you watch that live?
Yes, stayed up and watched it. I forget how old I was. I was maybe 12 or something like that. I was a kid. I was young, and two fights that stick out for me from childhood, like staying up for American fights, were Buster Douglas, and then watching Evander Holyfield beat Buster Douglas the next, because he was my favourite. So for him to sort of get the belt back, as such, and normal services is resumed, was.
Did you like Holyfield's chances before the first Tyson fight? Then I know when you at the ring walks you said you did, but before, in the build up, did you think Holyfield would get him?
Wasn't sure, because I was a kid, so I'd bought into this killer. So Tyson was a killer then to me. I wasn't looking at it logically. So no, I was a little bit fearful for him, especially coming up from cruiser as well.
That Douglas upset, I mean, so I didn't have one of those fruity boxes, so I was like, I remember hearing it on the radio. I woke up at 4 a.m. I put on the radio because I wanted to hear it, and it was Steve Wright. Remember Steve Wright used to be? He said, we've got news from Tokyo. Mike Tyson's just lost, and I was like, what? And I was like, I fell back to sleep, and I went to breakfast that morning, and I saw my father, and I said, Tyson lost last night. And he goes, don't be ridiculous. Of course he didn't. I was like, yeah, I must have been dreaming. And there was no way of knowing, because there was no internet. And I think I didn't know till the next day when it was on the news, Monday. Oh my God, he did lose. I woke up, I thought I was dreaming, So what was that like to watch?
Again, it was like shaking my head sort of thing. Is that just that? Because there was no way Buster Douglas was going to beat Tyson. It was a walkover. He just needed to turn up. And then as the rounds progressed, it's like, hold on a second. This guy's getting closer and closer. Oh, he's down. Shit, he's not going to get back up. Oh, it's done. Yeah, it was. I remember going. So it was. Go back. It was a friend of my uncle's that had the dodgy box. A friend of the family, Alan, and he lived on the next street to us, and it was like an open house. We could go, and I'd stay there to watch boxing. I remember my uncle John wasn't with me. I remember running back home at like 5 a.m, waking him up to tell him what had happened, and he was similar to your father. Don't be daft. And it's like, no, he has. And then it was teletext to go on the old teletext and wait for it to load up. But yeah, I remember that was the world turned on its axis then, because it was. I think it's probably one of, if not the biggest shocks in boxing, still probably to this day. Going on odds, sort of on odds.
And it's a brilliant fight by Douglas. People think it's the story of Mike Tyson not being prepared and Mike Tyson taking it for granted. But Douglas was brilliant.
Remember, he lost his mum in the build-up as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot went into that. He wasn't meant to win. He was brought in as cannon fodder, as an opponent. And his mum died while they were in camp.
Yeah, 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before,
And the fact that he had the fight of his life, because let's be true, he never did anything after that.
I know, yeah.
But he made a career out of being the first guy to he destroyed the myth, didn't he? Because Tyson was never the same fighter after the myth had been destroyed or dispelled. He was never the same guy.
And Tyson himself says that. He says my career ended in 90. He said that's So that's awesome, brilliant. And what about what's the worst bit of sportsmanship you've seen in the boxing ring?
Worst bit of sportsmanship. It's more MMA that, but I mean, in terms of boxing, I didn't like the when Mayweather knocked out Ortiz.
Yeah, on the break.
Because if you watch it back, he's watching Cortez. I mean, Cortez is on Mayweather's payroll and was on Mayweather's payroll for a long time. There's no proof of that, but he was Mayweather's referee. The way he watched him and then clocked him and knocked him out, probably that's up there for me. Just the way it ended, I just didn't like it. I'm trying to think in a British ring where I've seen. Can't really think, to be honest. I think that's probably one that stands out for me.
That's a good shout. Okay, so do you do anything you think might be different to anyone else when you're assessing a matchup, or when you're scoring the fight? Is there anything you sort of look out for differently?
I'm a bit of a nerd for boxing, so I watch feet a lot. Because you can see, I know this may sound crazy, but if you watch a boxer's feet for long enough, you can tell what they're going to do with the hands, or you can tell where they're going to go, or where they're trying to go, or what they're trying to do. A lot of people don't see that. I can sit and watch a fighter's feet, and then I'll know exactly what punch he's going to throw, because you can see where he's up for a jab, or if he's going to pivot, he'll put his heel in, lean on his back leg a little bit, distribute his weight. No, not really. I try watch fights with the volume off, even when I'm watching them myself. So I just don't like the commentary. Sometimes it can be biased and it influences, or the crowd will influence you because they'll a punch might hit the glove. There'll be a big roar because they're seeing it from there. No, I just try to be as fair as possible. And try concentrate as much as I can and not get drawn in by emotion.
Yeah, great. Okay. Do you have a favourite boxing quote?
Just the Marvin Hagler one. Just it's harder to get up and train when you're getting out of silk sheets and silk pajamas, because I think it's so relevant across the board.
You used that last night, I think, when I was watching you.
I did.
Yeah,
because it's one of my favourite quotes because it's so relevant.
Yeah, in fact, you were referencing Tyson Fury.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it myself from my brother, just at a way, way lower level.
Really?
He started feeling himself.
Wow.
Train as hard, and his career didn't turn out how it should have done.
Interesting.
Because he didn't think he had to try. He thought he could just turn up.
That's amazing. If it's true of that level, then how hard it must be to maintain motivation at the top level when you've got 50
so
million.
Difficult. I mean, my brother, as I said, elite amateur, challenged for a British title, was the English champion. So boxed, he boxed on Ricky Hatton undercards in Vegas, Mayweather undercards. He's boxed on some big shows, and seeing him unable to motivate himself or not train as hard because he thinks he's probably better than he was. I dread to think what it must be like 50 levels above that. It must be so difficult.
So what age would he have been at that turning point?
Mid-20s, probably. Really? Mid-20s.
Yeah, when he's in his prime. Yeah, tough. And okay, do you have apart from your own, can you recommend a boxing podcast, book, or movie?
Favorite boxing book, Lazarus and the Hurricane.
Okay, don't know that one. What's that?
What's his name? Let me find it now. So it's a true story.
Oh, the Hurricane, as in what's his name?
Accused of rape.
They made the movie of him.
Yeah, it's Denzel Washington that plays him. Reuben Carter, that's it. Reuben Carter. He got accused of rape, lost most of his career in prison. Love that book. It's a book that I can read over and over and over again.
Great. Not heard that one.
Boxing podcast. I mean, I listen to every boxing podcast there is. So to single one out would probably, I don't want to upset anyone and be unfair.
Okay.
All of them. Anybody that's doing fight sports content for me is worth a listen. And
Nice
then,
one.
be a judge yourself. For me to say that, this one's better than this, who am I to sort of judge? And I'm not trying to be politically correct in that. I'm just being honest. I wouldn't want to say anybody's better than anybody, because who am I to judge content? I'm new in this space myself, so I'm no big shot.
Good answer. Okay. So a couple of quick ones here. We've done 45 minutes, so the answer these is quick.
Long as
what on the 22nd of February card, is there a fight on that bill that stands out to you as you think you know what's going to happen? If you could pick one.
I think Bivol
Nice.
will stop Beterbiev.
Wow, punchy. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
That's a 10-1 shot.
Yeah.
Interesting. Love that. Okay.
60-1 if you choose a round like I will.
Yeah.
It. I've just got a funny feeling. Well, not a funny feeling. I just think that Beterbiev boxed as good as he could. And I think that Bivol held a little bit back because he was worried about gassing later on.
Yeah.
And I think once he realised, because he was taking shots clean, and I think once he realised he had the legs to take those shots, I think he'd be a little bit pissed off that he didn't put it on him a little bit more, because there were he had opportunities to attack, and he sort of boxed within himself.
I agree.
I wouldn't be surprised if the reverse happened, because Beterbiev is a venomous puncher, but I think that Bivol is going to stop him mid rounds of that fight.
I think that's a great shot. I think people are saying that it helps Beterbiev, the fact that he's Beterbiev, I always say his name wrong, but the fact that he's going straight into another camp because he's old, I think that's a disadvantage, not an advantage.
No recovery time.
So he's basically had 3 camps on the trot, because the first one was a postponement. Then he got over that injury and straight into the camp for the last fight, and now he's going straight. I don't think this is good for his injured.
That's what I'm saying. I think that the wheels potentially could start to fall off, and I think that will play a factor in the fight. And I think that it's going to be an easier night for Bivol. I just think for me, I think everything points in Bivol's favour.
Okay.
Slightly younger and fresher, etc. So I see a stoppage in that fight.
Yeah, and he's just a superb fighter. And what about gun to head, Ben Eubank in April? Got an early view on that one?
Yeah, I have. I wish it wasn't happening. I'm not. Yeah, I don't like fights that are made just for the sake of making them. They're making that fight for no other reason than one surname's Ben, the other one is Eubank, right? Yeah. They're not in the same weight division. They're nowhere near the same weight division, right? Yeah. So it's going to be dangerous for one of them. Either the one coming down, the one going up. We've seen it before. We saw Kell Brook ruin his career. All right, he's a multimillionaire. Fantastic. But he could have been an all-time great. Kell Brook had the skill set to be an all-time great. Wow. If Kell Brook didn't have smashed-in face, he would have beat Errol Spence for me, right? Wow. But his face is held together with pins, right? And he ended up getting the other eye socket broke by Errol Spence, right? Yeah. So I don't like seeing these massive jumps. I don't want to see, I'll watch it, but I'm not interested in the Crawford Canelo either, because I just think the weight.
Same reason,
too much, right?
Yeah.
It's a big risk. So for me, it's a big risk. I'll go with my original pick. I think Junior knocks him out. I don't think Bennett's as hard as he did. I don't know why that is. I don't know. But, there could be a reason for that. I'm not saying there is. But all of a sudden, his concussive punch power seems to have waned. Yeah. And I just think Eubank's a natural middle, super middle.
Yeah. I just don't think Eubank's got much of a punch, though.
Yeah, but he's 2 stone heavier than him is naturally. Yeah. I think natural weight will play a part in that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. I was the same as you. For 3 years, I was like, I don't care. And then suddenly it got announced. I was like, I kind of do care now. It's piqued my interest. Okay. And will we see Tyson Fury ever fight again?
He don't know, does he? So how can we know? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Good answer.
Probably, because he means it. when he's retired, he means it. But he's the
Yeah.
kind of guy that will announce he's fighting Dillian White next week.
Yeah.
Depends. He'll get bored. If he gets bored, he might call out Joshua.
Yeah.
But I hope not. I'd hate to see him get beat by because I don't think Joshua could lace his boots then.
Yeah.
What's going to do Tyson is him sliding at age and, you know, so I hope not, but probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he came in very heavy in the rematch with Usyk. If the silk pajama things, like he could be coming in at 300 pounds for these if he does come back, you know. All right, Jay, look, that's brilliant. Anything I want to get your socials, we'll put those in the comments, but was there anything else you want to cover before we wrap it up?
Not really. I think we've covered pretty much everything from my first ever fight to my top 10. No, it's been absolutely awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Loved it, Jay. Yeah, really interesting. Love. It's so interesting. You see someone on social media, you're like, oh, I like hearing him talk this. It's always so fascinating to find out the background. Appreciate your time. And so what is
you're welcome. I think people like watching my content because I'm not trying to be famous. I'm fairly successful in what I do in my professional life. I do this as a hobby.
Yeah.
So my opinions are from the heart.
Yeah.
So I'm not bothered about upsetting people to a degree. I'd try not to be disrespectful.
No, you're respectful,
just to get clicks because, you know, I do this whether 1,000 people watch it, 1 million people watch it, or 13 people watch it.
If you didn't have that attitude, you'd never start. So you have to do that. And do you sit in a dark room with your mic? Is that like a trademark thing? No,
it wasn't, right? But I watched it back and I thought that looks pretty cool. To be fair, man. So I've started doing that. I've started doing it, man. I like it. So yeah, it will be. Keep punching.
The beard frames it, the microphone, the blue light, it's moody.
Looks all right, doesn't it, man? So good. Yeah, I stumbled into that by just turning the lights off, and I turned my ring light down, and it just looked decent. So I thought, do you know what? I'll stick with that. And thanks for the positive feedback.
Make it your thing, definitely, yeah. And then you got Liam in the other room. Like, you are trying to work out, is that an Australian flag? What flag's going?
I think it is. Yeah, he used to live there. He spent some time over there. Traveling. So you got Liam in his bedroom, Sam in the kitchen, and me sat in a dark basement somewhere.
Tell Liam to turn the lights off as well, and then you got a whole thing going there. All right, look. So your Twitter's on there, but just say it as well.
At Jay's Fight Talk, all one word. Yeah, my YouTube channel's exactly the same. You can catch me over there. I try to be on there as much as I can. I do lives, shorts. As I say, we do the No Punches Pulled podcast, which is over on my co-host Sam. On SW Fight Hub, his YouTube channel, and then you can catch Jay Straight Talk with Jay's Fight Talk and Liam weekly. It's gonna be Tuesday, Wednesdays, over on my YouTube channel. Yeah, brilliant. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, please.
Yeah, excellent. Well, like I say, I've been enjoying it, and I'm constantly watching all your stuff. All right, Jay, thanks a lot for your time, man. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Take care, man.